Today's special, I will focus on a topic very close to my heart, the stray dogs and cats roaming the streets of Albania, often hungry, abused, or unprotected. This topic is often viewed as unworthy of dignity or institutional attention. But fortunately, smart, dedicated, and brave people like my esteemed guest today are committed to reversing this narrative and to ensuring dignified and humane treatment of these stray animals. Oli Pero, welcome to this honest space somewhere between Albania and Montreal, Canada.
Hi, Aida. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be having this conversation in English to make sure that our international friends can keep up with us as well. So bear with us. Oli, who is Oli Pero and what should we know about you that defines you as a person?
Well, I'm a 36-year-old woman born and raised in Shkodër, Albania. I have been living for the past 7 years in Montreal, Canada. I currently work for the Canadian Red Cross, where I am an emergency management advisor. And I work a lot with big companies to recruit volunteers from them. And also do operational debriefings for the organization. And from time to time, I am also a liaison agent with the government and municipalities when there is, when a disaster strikes. But what we are here today for is that I am the founder of Animals Need Me, which is an organization in Shkodër, Albania, that I founded actually 11 and a half years ago. And yeah.
Oli, I'm impressed, and to be honest, part of what you're just describing, I had the opportunity to hear about during my IVLP experience and the visit to the Red Cross. And for many people watching, to my dismay, of course, the first reaction would be, so why would such a committed professional waste time running after these stray dogs and cats, in the streets of different cities in Albania?
Well, I beg to differ, as I don't think that I'm wasting my time. I think that what we do daily by rescuing, rehoming, rehabilitating stray pets is the right thing to do. We live in a society where we are not alone and we are part of the environment, we're part of the animal welfare, and we are part of the planet. So for me personally, but also for many people, to see so many animals in distress and seeing that actually there is very little help, well, I think we are up to that task and we should help them. And we should be instrumental into bringing another narrative to this story. And I don't think I'm wasting my time. I think I'm investing my time in a right purpose.
And I couldn't agree more, and I wish there were more people viewing it that way. During these 12 years or more that you have been dedicating your time to rescuing animals, what are some of the most concerning issues you have encountered, be it in the cities or, in the rural areas?
Well, the first thing that comes up to my mind is that the animals, especially companion animals, are seen as things and not as sentient beings. So they are people are very eager to get them if they need them, for example, to guard the house or to chase mice in the case of cats, and then get rid of them right away if they don't do their job properly or if they think that they cannot handle that animal. So our streets are overwhelmed with stray pets because people abandon them daily, and it's daily, it's overwhelming, especially in the case of our organization where we are reached by 30 people a day with reports of injured, sick, abandoned animals that cannot survive in the street and stuff like that. So I think that we need to have a shift in the way we view animals, not just as these wasteful things, but as sentient beings and actually our companions, which bring us a lot of comfort, love, and with which we can share our lives with. So there is a difference in rural areas because there are fewer pets in the streets in rural areas, mainly because in rural areas, there are no organization to help them, to feed them. So either they die by the conditions, the rough conditions in the streets, or they are merely killed.
It's a very sad context that you're describing, and I mean, you touched a bit on it, but for those who hear it for the first time, do you mind describing a bit the current state of stray animals in Albania in terms of, you said about abandonment, but in terms of violation or abuse, in terms of neglect, undernourishment, what are some of the what do you see today if you were to
if this was a question with if this was a question with alternatives, I'll check all the boxes, all the above, because you see a lot of abandonment, abuse, either by poisoning stray dogs or stray cats, by mistreating them, by throwing rocks at them, or physical abuse. And then you see a lots of injuries by cars, and no one stops to help these animals. And there is a big indifference from the citizens. So they see them, they see that they are hungry, they see dogs and cats who are emaciated completely, and then don't even feed them or give them water or help them or rescue them or foster them until they find a better home. So I think that the culture of Albanians needs to change, actually, in order to have meaningful and positive changes in our society. Many tourists come to our country, and actually they are emotionally hurt and overwhelmed with the state of the stray pets. Maybe Albanians have made their peace of mind with it, but the many tourists who visit our country don't. And we have actually seen many testimonies, not just by emails or by, reports that they write directly to our organization, but also through a survey that we have conducted with tourists. And we have had 101 replies on that survey, and all of them are shocked at the state that the animals. What is even more shocking, it's not just the society as such, but it's also a leniency, or there is actually nothing in terms of policies from the government or the local municipalities. So this needs to change, because I think that not just they are bounded by law, but also in terms of ethical solutions that they can bring to the table. We as organizations are not that powerful to make all these changes, but if we can collaborate together, then I'm sure that maybe in 5 or 10 years, the situation will be much more better.
So would it be fair for me to assume that we have failed animals on a human and societal and institutional level? And by we, I mean we, the people and the community in Albania and the institutions in Albania.
Aida, I'd like to see the glass half full. I don't want to be demoralized, because if I get demoralized, then I'll have to give up. So I think that I'm not talking in an idealistic point of view. I'm talking in terms of knowledge that I have acquired, that I think that there are good people in Albania who help animals a great deal, either be individuals or organizations. And there are, I'm sure, even in the government or in the local municipalities, people who can be allies for this cause. The thing is that we need to glue these things together, and we need to bring them to the same table and discuss and be, agree on certain areas. For example, massive spay-neuter campaigns, or for example, education of citizens. These are two things that we can all agree that are needed, even though that we might think differently in different issues. We have failed animals, but as people, we have also the capacity to do right by them, and many of us are trying to do right by them. So I think that in the future, many more people, I hopefully feel inspired to do those little things to help animals.
And we will go into it further down the conversation. But for now, I'd like to stop. There is this perception that I have whenever there have been interactions with some authorities or representatives, that there is a lack of dignity, or the way this conversation is conducted. People try to reduce it almost to a futile discussion that doesn't really deserve attention, time, resources. I mean, they're like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Dogs now? But why do you think this happens, and how can we restore some dignity to the subject? Because after all, it's not just about being nice and kind to the animals, but it's also about respecting and implementing the law, just like we would do
Absolutely.
with any other topics or subject.
Absolutely. You know, my friend Morena, who I'm sure you know, and she does a lot of educational content, she says, well, these are precisely the people we should talk to. There is no point in educating already educated citizens on animal welfare topics. We have, I'm sure all of us, friends and family who don't think like we do. Take it my own mother. She doesn't think like I do. And she's a very humanitarian person. But she thinks that animals are maybe somewhere far away behind the many other issues that she deals with daily. But I think that precisely these are the people who need to shift this perspective. And we need to be mindful of that there are people who don't think like us, like for every other matter. And then we can respectfully agree to disagree, have a conversation, and bring our perspective. And I think that when people are respectful to each other, you have much more chances to be listened to, rather than when we get into fights, because I know we care about animals deeply, and sometimes it's very hurtful, the conversations that we have with other people. They don't understand, they ignore us, but we should be very resilient about that and actually never lose focus. And okay, I understand that. And I think that we can do better by this. So that's why I said to you that I'd like to see the glass half full and not lose hope. Because if we lose hope, then everything can fall apart.
Well, that's definitely a path I would not like to go down that path, because personally I don't know how to function in a pessimistic context. But going back to the law, do you think our current legal framework is complete or prepared to address some of the key issues, or has that legal framework also failed to address some of these issues?
I don't think that we have a bad legal framework in Albania. We have been having one since 2011. The very problematic with this law is that actually the institutions that are have to abide by this law do not have the capacities to implement it. And that is something else. So the law of animal welfare in Albania, the veterinary law, is mainly, let's say, 80% about cows and sheep and animals that we use for food, and just a small portion is for companion animals or wildlife, which makes it difficult because we don't have, as a country or as a government, yes, we have a Ministry of Agriculture, but we don't have necessarily something for the companion animals yet. So I think that what is really important is to have the resources to build capacities about registration programs, spay-neuter campaigns, education of citizens. These are all things that need, quite frankly, money and people to do them. And if we don't have them, well, that's the first problem. The second problem, when related to animal abuse, is that we have 4 articles in the criminal code, which are, I feel like they were made in a rush and not really, they were not insightful of the reality in Albania. And what happens with the justice reform in Albania is that we have fewer prosecutors and fewer judges, okay, to take all these cases. And even if you, and as an average, a judge in Albania has 17 cases per day. Well, 17 cases per day, many of them may be murder cases, violence against women, children, and robberies, conflict for ownership of something, and then you have animal abuse. And what I think happens, I'm not 100% sure of it, but what I think happens is that the attention span on those 17 cases is different, and cases are prioritized from the hardest one to the easiest one. And then what prosecutors do, or what judges do, is that they will take the holes in these 4 criminal code articles rather than the purpose of these criminal code articles. So let's say if we wanna condemn animal abuse or animal killing, but we say that the animal that we abused didn't suffer permanent consequences, well, then the judge or the prosecutor will say there is no evidence that this animal suffered permanent. So you understand, we should shift the story to please help us enforce the law for their purpose and not for their holes. So it's a quite it's a big shift that we need on that.
And it's easy to do for as long as the defendant is not able to defend himself for obvious reasons, because we're dealing with animals. So
it's very hard to get testimonies as well.
Yes.
Because when you tell to people will trust you, they will send you videos of animal abuse, but they won't come to court to testify for what they witnessed. So it's very hard for us, but still we have tried to bring some cases of animal abuse where we were able to gather enough evidence and to put up a case. We did that, but it's a roller coaster and we have a long way to go.
But I mean, although I do remember, and one of the questions was in fact directed at the many cases you have put together, if I'm not mistaken, 20 criminal complaints?
Yes, 21.
21. It is also powerful in setting precedents, I think, because in this way, it's part of the education. I mean, teaching other organizations or other like-minded people that this is how we should go about addressing these abuses or these intentional, damages to the animals.
So, and certainly there are different prosecutors who actually did their jobs, and actually they sent their police officers in the grounds to interview people about the animal abuse case. Of course, the evidence was not sustained, so they closed the cases, and I respect that. I think it's a success that a prosecutor actually did their job, while we have other prosecutors who totally dismissed the case right away. But we have continued in our efforts. Actually, we have filed the complaint for that decision in the first degree court in Shkodër, and then we have one case in the Court of Appeal.
Well, I'm very happy to learn that this is becoming part of the routine in a legal context as well, because in this way we're also, if I could say, emancipate people who actually deal with this, and it should become a normal proceeding, or it should become a normal conversation or process to address animal rights related issues as well. And this brings me to the activity of Animals Need Me. What does it stand for? What does the impact of the work that you do look like? And what are some of the challenges that you encounter?
Well, Animals Need Me, from the name, is like taking personal accountability on what you can do about animals. It's mainly what it is. But our organization aims to create a society where no animal is abandoned, neglected, or abused. And we rescue, we rehabilitate, and rehome stray pets who are mainly injured or who cannot survive in the streets. We do so with the support of our staff, volunteers, and we try to collaborate as much as we can with other animal welfare organizations and partners. I think that we are compassionate, dedicated, and we try to collaborate as much as we can. We believe a lot in empowerment of people, of institutions, because we cannot do it alone. And I hate the hero syndrome. So I think that we should empower people to do right by animals rather than us taking them and doing such. We believe in treating every animal with kindness and respect, and advocate for their rights and responsible pet ownership.
And what would, in an ideal day, what would impact look like, for instance, in terms of activism or advocacy, in terms of rehoming or rescuing?
Well, if I might resume these things after 11 years of activism, the impact, if I can give you numbers, okay, I'm very proud of the spay-neuter campaigns we have done with the Municipality of Shkodër and with other partners. There are more than 30 spay-neuter campaigns, totaling into more than 5,500 animals spayed and neutered. That's a lot. We actually operate in 2 shelters where we take care of 220 animals. We rescue 400 to 500 animals per year, and we rehome from 150 to 250. So we try to find families for them. And what I'm also proud of is the growth of Animals Need Me, because I started fostering and rescuing in my own apartment, and yes, stray puppies and stray kittens. And then we are this, I would like to say, consolidated organization with people who believe in our mission, and of people who actually have given everything from themselves to be part of Animals Need Me. And each and one of our either be staff or volunteers has really given everything for this. So in other terms, I'm very proud also of our education program, because we started in October 2023 with the help of Honey Speck of Hope. It's a small foundation who help us pay an education coordinator going to schools. And we have done 41 workshops so far with more than 650 kids that have, discussed about responsible pet ownership, safe ways to interact with dogs and stuff like that, because it's a big part of this, or our dog bites prevention campaign.
Yes,
that we are doing it right now. We started in April, and we have put brochures and posters into the emergency rooms in Albania, and we're trying to collaborate with the public health for this. We have to bring everyone on board. And also the legal project, we offer legal assistance not just to Animals Need Me, but also to other animal welfare organizations and activists in the whole territory of Albania. If they need us for an animal abuse case, our lawyers will be happy to help them. So I think this is something that shows our dedication to the mission. So one other thing is that we are the only organization in Albania having an actual partnership with the local municipality. So, which is very important. I'm not saying this is an easy ride. It has never been. There are always challenges, there are always bumps in the road, but I believe that this is the right way, and we should learn from each other. We should learn from the municipality can learn from us, and we can do the best for the people and for the animals as well.
I'm full of admiration and thinking that it's only been 11 years that you've been doing this. And in addition to all the numbers that you mentioned that are exceptional, because of course I would multiply them by the number of puppies that each, dog
we have sterilized. Yes.
So instead of 5,000, at least half of them, you think it's the number, it's way higher. But what I think it's exceptional in your case is also this very comprehensive approach. I mean, you're covering education and legal and partnership with institutions, providing a beautiful example. We said it's not easy, but a great example as to how other organizations can approach their municipalities or other institutions, and to basically use your model to replicate it. Because usually when we are given for an example, we say, oh yes, but the context, in the States or in Canada or somewhere else is different. So in Albania, it wouldn't work. But clearly, in your case, we can see that despite the challenges, of course, it has been possible to have this partnership going for a few years now. So I
Yes.
would like to congratulate you on this, because it really gives
Thank
us
you.
power of the precedent to use it to encourage more organizations to adopt a positive attitude, not just the watchdog, not just the, oh, these things aren't working type of attitude. Now, this brings me to my next question, which concerns this. Does passion and sensitivity to this particular subject, is that enough to run the organization and successfully manage it? Or are there some other, let's say, elements required? Because it's a very specific type of organization.
I have been saying this a lot lately, especially when they ask me, why do I go to conferences? Or why do I attend academies or online courses about animal welfare? And I say, simply because love is not enough. Passion is not enough. They are meaningful ingredients for sure. I can't think a person who doesn't love animals to do this kind of job, or a person who's not passionate enough to do this kind of job, because it is draining emotionally, financially, physically. It's a draining work. But what I think is that, first of all, you have to have the knowledge, or you have to have the desire to have knowledge and learn new things, because there are new things. And as I said, love is not enough. I think that people who deal with animal welfare issues especially need to be good communicators. If you're not a good communicator, then it's very difficult for you to raise the issues properly and be involved in ethical solutions, rather than, conflictual relationships with institutions or even other citizens and other animal welfare activists. If you're unable to communicate properly, then you cannot influence decisions. I think it's very, very important. The third thing that I would add would be, how do you say this in English? It's very difficult for me. The ability to collaborate with other people, either be them citizens, animal activists, volunteers, organizations, institutions, and different partners. So there is always a common ground somewhere. And I think that the ability to find that common ground somewhere, we cannot agree on everything for sure, but if we have a ground where we can agree, then let's work on it. Let's create a little island there and, plant some flowers. That's the way I think.
And again, it's admirable, but I would like to ask you a bit more about the draining part that you mentioned. Surely you deal with a lot of challenging situations, and you see a lot of animals in distress. How do you manage your own mental and emotional well-being, given the challenges and issues associated with the work that you do? Clearly, it's difficult.
It's very difficult. It's very challenging, especially when I lived in Albania. It was very hard because I would see them firsthand, animals covered in blood and all these kinds of things. And I would be verbally abused when helping an animal sometimes. So it's very hard. And my temperament at the time was a bit more rough than it is today. I was younger, 10 years old younger. So it was very difficult to have this emotional regulation back then in Albania. But what happened is that, with age, with maturity, with the work that you do, with many other experiences with humans in different setups, you understand, and with the right resources, of course. It doesn't just come just by experience, but also with the right resources, is that I've done work on myself. I read a lot about emotional regulation, and I try to nourish myself with other activities. I love my life. I exercise. I take care of plants, of animals. I have a family. So I try to prioritize the things. I think it's the right way, this way.
I'm sure this kind of approach also helps other activists or volunteers to be able to find an acceptable way, a balanced way of dealing with this, because, as you said, it can be very overwhelming, but not in a
It's
good way.
very hard, Aida. It's very hard.
Yes.
It's very hard because you are abused from all kinds of ways. From the citizens who don't want their animals,
Yes.
from people who don't understand your work, for maybe other organizations who don't see it your way and they think differently on some issues. So you have to pause a minute and actually reflect, where is this coming from and how can I tackle it? So it's very hard, and that's why I hope that many people understand that we need to address this as well in our work.
It goes both sides. I mean, us, but also the people who are actually witnessing this. Perhaps they should also do some take some steps back and rethink why these organizations or activists are trying their best to actually rescue these animals. And talking about people, for all the people that are listening to us and willing to help stray animals, willing to contribute or volunteer somehow with Animals Need Me or any other organizations, how can they do it, Oli? What would be some of your suggestions?
My suggestion would be to start small, either to, first of all, never abandon their own animal, but always to try to find the solutions, to find another family if they don't want their animal anymore. The second would be to feed the strays in their area, or to help the local animal welfare organization. There are so many ways that they can help, not just Animals Need Me, but their local rescue group, by maybe taking pictures of their animals and publish them on social media, walking a dog, volunteering, raising awareness, and quite frankly, being an ally. You can do little fundraising events, in the city center, or quite frankly, with just your friends. Let's raise $100 for this organization because they need it for vaccination. So there are many ways then people can, and even sometimes just sharing on social media their posts helps.
I hope that for the people who are listening, they do get some inspiration or some ideas on small steps. Sometimes it's not because we don't want to help. Sometimes you just don't think about it, and you don't really make an effort unconsciously to actually think or wonder how can you contribute or how can you do something meaningful, no matter how small that is. My last question for today would be, do you have a message for the institutions and people alike when it comes to animals, especially with the summer season ahead of us and scorching temperatures expected? Is there a final way to shake, I would say, the indifferent people or the indifferent institutions and try to basically highlight as much as possible the importance of animal welfare, and not just because of an egocentric reason, because we have to look good on the tourists and, because they bite us or anything, but generally speaking, is there a message that you have to basically call these people to action?
I think, Aida, that you verbalized everything so well in your question about, the way that we look when dealing with animal welfare issues. I would say that if people would have taken animal welfare issues to heart and do just what they can, not do sacrifices of any kind or anything, but just what they can. For example, institutions, what they can by law, organizations, what they can by capacity, or by collaboration, or animal lovers just by throwing a lifeline out there for dogs and cats in the summer heat. I think that it would actually create a healthier environment for all of us, for people and for humans. When treating well an animal, you have less dog bites, you have less diseases, you have many other issues which are correlated into their bad welfare. And just the same, we share one health, you know, with the environment, with the animals, we share this one health. And if we, let's say, if we don't vaccinate the animals, then we have diseases which will kill the animals, but some of them will be transmitted to humans. So for the institutions, it's very important to collaborate together, the public health, the Ministry of Agriculture, the municipalities, on spay neuter campaigns and on vaccination campaigns and education of their citizens. So I believe that if we did that little effort, everything would be better for animals and for the humans in Albania and everywhere.
Thank you, Oli, for doing what you do and for not giving up on the voiceless creatures, the stray dogs and cats in the streets, and for positively trying to give all the people and the institutions a chance to shift their perceptions in an informed way. And also, thank you very much for also identifying positive models that work, you know, by attending all these events and conferences and activities and integrating them into the Albanian context. I think this is very important for us because it gives us a chance to understand that this is not just a local problem, and that this is a problem that other governments and other communities and societies have had to deal with, but it can only be done if each of these, you know, smaller entities assumes their role.
Pieces of the puzzle.
Yes, absolutely.
Are glued together. Yes, that's true.
And
it's me who thanks you for the wonderful interview. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I hope to be talking to you soon. And why not physically here in Albania?
With pleasure. I come this summer.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.